Heyo, folks, welcome to the channel, and today we're going to be reviewing a interesting set, a LEGO Despicable Me 4 set. Today we'll be looking at LEGO set number 75583, Minions and Gru's Family Mansion. It's a bit of a weird title because I feel like it's better off as Gru's Family Mansion, but whatever. This set released in 2024 with 868 pieces with 9 minifigures retailing for a whopping $100. Finally, after so many years, we get a set centered around Gru, the adult version, and his house. Which brings a question, did LEGO do justice to Gru and his house, as in his family? I don't know. However, that's what today's video is for, where we figured that out. So let's get straight to it, shall we? We'll be starting off, of course, with Gru's mansion itself, which, on the surface, it looks alright. To a person who hasn't seen it in a while, it looks fine, but to anyone who knows the exterior very well, it looks off. I mean, obviously, the front is just, like, very thin. Like, there should be a little bit more, like, I think a building should have been a little bit taller, so that way there's more porch, which I feel like would have helped with the back of the set, which this is one of those facade type sets, but we'll get to that. And another thing is, this is meant to be the garage for Gru's big car, which is so tiny. And this is supposed to have 2 windows rather than 1. Speaking of Gru's car, how come they didn't make that a set? I feel like that would have been a really good Despicable Me based set. Regardless if it's based off one of the previous movies or if it's irrelevant to Despicable Me 4, I feel like that would have been a really great set to make. But that's for something else. But anyways, I do really like the autumn type leaves. I don't think these leaves in this orange color are common. I find it weird how the mailbox is put right here instead of on its own, because the mailbox has been seen to be in front of the house rather than on its side. You could have had a window right here, which is what would be there, although the build is alright. Although you do got a little bit of a envelope in here, as you can see. It's just a plain envelope printed piece. Let me bring that over so you can get a closer look. Nothing new, of course, but oh well. Of course, you gotta slide it in like a regular mailbox thing, like shibling. And as you can see up top, you got the little minion in the window, which is a little cute nod. As well as the piping and all that, as well as the window to the house and all that, which is fair. I do feel like the top should have been done better, because this, like, gap right there is just kind of bothering me. Once we look at the back, we'll show you how the sides here and these sides connect to the building itself. Which actually, why don't we turn it around and take a look at that? As you can see here, we have the interior of the house, which you can see it's half lab and half house, which is interesting, which I will say I see what they were going for, so that way, like, the lower half is the laboratory while the upper half is the house itself, which I see what they're going for, but at the same time I just don't think it quite works out. But maybe that's just me. It's like there's more lab than there is house, and whatever there is of house is not that great, to be honest. But we'll get to more of that in a bit. Let's focus more on the lower part with the lab, which you can see there's not a whole lot of features, but you can turn these around, all around. You can see one part's a ladder and one part is a box which has cookies. Oops. You can see they're like those frosted sugar cookies, which who doesn't love those, like for real. And then you can see there's a walkie-talkie and some buttons and a plunger gun, I guess, which is alright, though it's not as great as the grappler from the Fortnite set. And you got a little bit of a water dispenser, whatever you'd call them. We'll just say water dispenser, because the thing isn't coming to mind exactly, which I feel like that's like a little nod to the first movie when the minions assemble, and there were a couple of minions playing with the water jug, water dispenser, whatever, and they were just having a joke about it while the minions were getting assembled, which... That's another thing. I do feel like the set should have had a lot more references to the older movies, which there's not a whole lot. At least not a whole lot that I can know. Maybe there's more references to Despicable Me 3 and Me 4 that I don't recognize, but like I said, those are the only 2 movies I haven't seen, as well as Rise of Gru. But And on the other side, you do got a little thing which has a bomb and a little nuclear thing, so that must be like a nuclear bomb, as well as a stack of TNT and a broom, as well as one of those like little, I don't know what they're called. They're like the snowboarding sticks. I'll have to look it up and I'll show it on screen on what they're called. But, well, and then you got a toilet with some toilet paper and all that. I would assume this is a mirror, but it doesn't have any like mirror-like functions, because we've gotten mirror pieces before in the past. Well, they're usually stickers, but you know what I'm saying. Which inside the toilet bowl is water. Thankfully, there's no other colors. And on the other side, you got more buttons and a lever. Well, button and a lever. Yeah. These just turn around. There's just not a whole lot. However, if you look on the inside where you'd see the doorway, where the doorway wouldn't lead into the lab, the doorway would lead into the house, and that's another issue. However, that aside, you can see there's a few of these computers with stickers on there. One, they're just basic stickers with some computer technology stuff on there. One has a spider. I'm not sure if that's a reference to the new movie, which I do wish there were. I already said this, but I'll say it again. I do wish maybe there was a little bit of more references to the older movies, like maybe they had a jam jar in the set, or perhaps something relating to the purple minions or whatever, but still. Or even, here's a good one that I really think they should have added, is like a little mini whiteboard or clipboard, whatever, which had stickers to show Gru's plans to go to the moon, where Gru shrinks the moon, steals the moon, and sits on the toilet. And I just feel like that would have been a perfect reference to add, just to add flavor to the set. I mean, I know it's technically not relevant, because I'm pretty sure the whole moon thing isn't relevant to Despicable Me 4, but what do I know? And you also do got, I assume these are like emergency lights, I'm not sure what they are, but you also got a really cool metallic tube piece, which it's not often you get those. It's a little weird how it's kind of intertwines with the house. I'm not sure if that's meant to be like the tube that leads from the house to the lab, which if that were the case, then that should be a lot larger. But I don't know. Maybe there is a little explanation on what this is, but I don't know. But for now, let's just say it's a random tube. And you also got a wheel too right here. But now we're going to focus on the house. As you can see right here, you've got what's meant to be the girl's bedroom, and you got what's meant to be like, I guess, Gru's living room. I would say bedroom, but it looks more like his living room because you got a seat and axe, because I remember his like entryway as well as kind of his living room were decked out with weapons and armor and all that. So I'm just going to say this is the living room. But you do got a little like seating for Gru, though there's no studs to properly sit him, so you just got him on there. Here, let's bring Gru over here and you can just see how he fits. Like so. You also got like a really tiny fireplace which attaches to the roof piece on the roof, of course. It's a really small thing, but it's alright. It could be bigger, but it is what it is. You can only do so much with such a small build, and you do got some axes right here, which could come off if you really want, but I guess that's a little something to show the armory and all that, and of course the chair can spin. Well, not really, because you got the fire pit blocking it off. And you kind of have to be very careful. It's like a tight squeeze, so you kind of have to pull back. But technically speaking, you could spin it 360. Now let's focus on the girl's room, which all you got is this bed, which can only truly fit one. You could fit all three of them standing up, though it's a very, very tight squeeze, and I kind of don't want to like waste too much time showing that off. And you do got four tiles which are stickered, which does have a little rainbow, a minion sticker, as well as like a picture of a goat, as well as another minion, as well as a little unicorn thing, which I do wish there was like a unicorn piece or accessory to go with Agnes in the set, but instead Lego just went and just had no accessory, and I don't know why. I felt like Lego could have done that, but no, they didn't. And now we're looking to the final part of the house, the couch, which is really weird how it's up this high when it should be on the same level with the living room, since it's in the living room, which you do got like 2 cupcakes, I would imagine, as well as a cup of tea, which was also on the fireplace right here. And you also got a little light here, which can go side to side, which is fair. You could fit a few figures on here, though it's really awkward how it's built, because you got like the window area clipping onto the couch. I feel like maybe they should have been done in a way where the couch and the window are separate, otherwise it just looks awkward to me. And if you go a little bit higher, you could see the roof itself, as well as a little sticker which shows Gru and the girls, as well as the dog, who oddly isn't in the set, which is kind of understandable because the dog would have to be such a unique mold, and I imagine it would be really awkward to make one mold for just one set unless they had other plans. And you could obviously see the little clips that clip the roof together to keep it on the sides and all that. Let's also take a look at the lower floors to see how the other sides clip, which you could see there's these clips here which attach to here, and you can just yoink. Even that, it's kind of awkward. But yeah, you can see how those connect and all that. I do really think this build could have had a lot of opportunity, and I just don't understand why LEGO just missed out on it. I mean, there's a lot of things that they could have done and they didn't. I mean, I get it. You can only do so much with such a large set, but at the same time, I feel like there are some things that I would deem unnecessary, and I would just try to modify to have the building feel a little bit normal and like a house, rather than feel like a bad house lab hybrid. I feel like maybe it could be reworked to be a better version, so that way it's properly half lab and properly half house. But I'm probably getting my wording mixed up, but I'm pretty sure y'all would understand what I'm saying, right? But anyways, let's take a look at our next build, and then we'll get straight to the minifigures, so let's get to that. Here we have this little treehouse type of build, and maybe it's just because I haven't seen Despicable Me 3 or 4, but this just confuses me. Like, I don't remember seeing this in the first or second Despicable Me movie, so I'm just, like, confused on what all this is, and honestly, I just feel like the set could have just done without it. Like, I feel like this could have been just sacrificed, and the rest could have been used for the house. Like, the house could have been done bigger and better without this, but that's just me. Maybe I'll one day watch Despicable Me 3 and 4, and then I'll be like, oh, okay, that's what this is. And then maybe I'll be like, this either could have stayed, or this still could have just been left out. But let's focus on the build itself, which it's alright for what it is. You can see it consists of two parts. That's got a little zip line, as you can see here, which, let me actually grab one of the minifigures here and show you how that works, which it's pretty simple. Just connect it to the little zip line thing, and just like have it come down and like whoosh, right into this little area. Which, before we go to this part, we're gonna actually focus on the main one itself, which you can see like there's like a little table there, which there's a lot of fire elements, whether it be these tiki torches, the fires right here, or this. I imagine those are like candles and all that, which I do kind of like these little decorations on the side, one being a fish and I guess one being like a balloon, I don't know. They're both being held like by the clear rods, which were first introduced with Ahsoka, as far as I can tell. And you can see on the side here there's a little ladder, as well as like a little gift box, which if you look inside, there's nothing. Huh. You can see there's like pieces that are meant to be seats, where you can have one of the girls there, you can have one here, and one here, and one here. Yes, there's one on the back, which let's take a look at the back, which there's barely anything on the back. You can see how the lights at the bottom of the tree work, which do use that Spider-Man type of web piece, which it was seen in a few sets, but which is a pretty cool method. You can see the seat right there. Turn it back, we're gonna look at this, which I suppose these are meant to be like little drums here, where you could have one of the girls drumming, and yes, those are stickers. You also got another one right here, as well as two right here to represent the bamboo and all that. Pretty annoying. I do like these little like headpieces. It kind of reminds me of like the Lego villagers, like the villagers from the old pirate theme with King Kahooka and all that. It would be nice to see a remake of King Kahooka. That would be really cool. I do like this bush here with a little pink unprinted butterfly.
You stupid.
I remember this little like bush piece being used for like the Lego Movie 2 sets. Aside from that, this is a pretty basic build for this part. Don't get me wrong, this is a pretty decent build as is, but at the same time, I feel like we could have just done without it. Then again, I have not seen Despicable Me 3 and 4, so maybe these are in the movie, but I don't know. If they aren't, then let me know. And I just feel like this set could have done without it, especially if you just look at the house. I feel like Lego could just went without doing this and then used all those pieces to make the house bigger and better and more perfect, but I don't know, that's just me. But I think we should just move on and take a look at those figures, so let's do that, shall we? Really quick, I want to mention that they also included this little cart build, which is pretty cool, but a bit random because it doesn't really tell you what to put on the cart. My guess is like just a minifigure like Jerry here, or perhaps like that one box of cookies. Otherwise, it's just a random cart that happens to be in the set. I figured I'd do this small little segment rather than refilm a whole segment just to include this little cart. Anyways, let's move on. Starting off, we got the man himself, Gru, as well as Lucy Wilde, as well as Little Gru Jr. It's nice to get some more flesh-colored Lego babies, which is pretty cool and also pretty rare, which I think the only other time we gotten a flesh-colored baby was with Jack, and I think that was like the only other time we got a minifigure baby that was flesh-colored. And I'm not including those little bundles, otherwise you'd have Harry as well as some of those little babies from the Friends line, but I'm getting carried away. I think these figures are pretty alright, but before I get into the deep flaws with one particular figure, as well as something I find weird, I just want to go over the figures real quick, starting off with Gru, which, as you can tell, Gru and Lucy are in their more casual outfit, rather than Gru's main dark gray clothes, as well as Lucy's, like, jacket or combination, whatever you'd say, which I do think they're alright. It's interesting how one of them has their scarf printed while the other one has it molded. Even then, one's got polka dots and the other one would have stripes, but there's never been scarf printing in the history of Lego as far as I'm aware. For the scarf piece. For torso prints and all that, that's a different story, which I do think their headpiece, I do think their expressions are real nice. Lucy has another expression which has her in some glasses, which is really cool. Gru does also have a little bit of back printing, which is just some basic stuff. You can see more of Lucy's scarf, and there's no back printing for Lego babies. Taking off Gru's scarf, you could see a little bit more of his torso printing, which is pretty basic. You can see the top of his little sweater or so with the little G symbol on it for Gru, which is real nice. But yeah, these figures are pretty alright, though. Let me get into the big problem, which is basically the elephant in the room. Gru. There's just so many missed opportunities with this. This set is full of a lot of missed opportunities, and Gru is one of the biggest ones. One other missed opportunity I would like to mention is that none of the characters have accessories. Like, usually when you build a set, the minifigure comes paired with an accessory. For example, Rocket Raccoon would have one of his blasters and all that, but none of the figures in this set come with an accessory. Nothing. Like, you could have given Gru his iconic freeze ray, or perhaps Lucy Wilde her little, like, her flamethrower from the second movie, or even her lipstick taser. But no, not even the fart gun is in this set. Not even as an accessory for a minifigure or just an accessory attached to the build. It's not even in the set. But this is where the main gripe kicks in. Like, Gru is meant to be the tallest of the characters, so you would think that Lego would give him the new tall legs, right? Wrong, they just give him some regular black legs. And the thing is, they didn't stop, because they're still using the tall leg molds, whether it be for Madame Maxine, even though I think she should just use the robe piece, or Eggman, who literally has black legs, albeit with leg printing. Like, come on. That's just ridiculous. You could have just gave him some long legs to help him, but no. I mean, I do also feel that Gru should have also had the Pinocchio headpiece, because the Lego Disney CMF did give us a Pinocchio headpiece which had a nose to represent Pinocchio's nose. And that's another thing. If Gru isn't known for his height, he's known for his nose, and they just completely lacked his nose. They could have just gave him his nose and his long legs. Maybe I'm getting a little too exaggerated over that, but aside from missing those, Gru's is pretty alright. Which I will also say that as much as I think Gru Jr. looks really well, I do think maybe he could have had like a little hair on the top of his head, because if I recall correctly, he did have one, where here he lacks it. I do find it a little bit odd how his name is Gru Jr., which I'm trying not to get too carried away, but it's interesting because Gru's full name is actually Felonious Gru, which is obviously a play on felony, and his brother's name is Drew Gru, and now his son's name is Gru Jr., Like, does that mean his name's just Gru Jr., or is it like Felonious Gru Jr.? It's weird, but let's not get into that. I think we should just move on and look at the next figures, which I think are pretty cool. So let's do that right now. Let's just get away from the weirdness as well as the missed opportunities and just move on. Here we have the girls, or should I say the girls, which I gotta say, their minifigures are pretty good. I mean, they're not without flaw, but they are pretty good. Starting off, they do all have short legs, though I feel like if anything, Margot should have had mid legs, because I feel like of all the girls, she's the tallest. I do like how you get like a hot pink magenta legs for Edith, as well as you got the baby blue legs for Agnes. And their torsos, they are perfect, each and every one of them, with the exception of Agnes. Don't get me wrong, it's still good, though I feel like if anything, she should have had dual molded arms to represent the short sleeves, even as a person who prefers long sleeves myself. But yeah, faces is a completely different story, because as you could see, they all have unique faces, with the exception of Agnes, who has the generic young girl face that you've seen in a few Harry Potter sets. As for hair pieces, that's where the big flaw comes in. I think Margot's hairpiece is pretty okay. I will say her hairpiece is alright, though if anything, I feel like maybe she could have used a more unique new hairpiece, as well as she could have had a darker hair color, because if I recall correctly, her hair is a bit more of a dark brown, but that's just me. And then you got Edith, who I think she should have had an entirely new hair hat combo mold, because with this hairpiece, her hair is a lot longer, and she just has a generic beanie, where her hat is more unique, and she has a little, like, straps to her hat, or whatever you'd call them. But yeah, her hair just looks really long compared to how it usually is. And then you have Agnes, who uses the wild style hairpiece, but without the blue and hot pink. I don't know if this piece has ever been done before without the colors, but either way, I do feel like if anything, she should have had a completely new hairpiece, because her little braid, rather than being on the side of her head, it would be on the top of her head, which is odd. But anyways, let's turn the figures around, because you could see that they all got back printing, and you could see Edith has more hair than normal because of the reused hairpiece, which was previously used for Hermione in the Harry Potter Advent Calendar, which, if you take the headpieces off, you could see Margot's got a more excited face, Edith has a more mischievous face, and Agnes has a more sad face. It's nice to get unique flesh-colored faces for younger characters, in case you want to make customs of certain characters, or even your own sig fig, even though these are meant for, like, younger sorts of characters, but who knows. Still, it's really nice. I do wish Agnes got a unique hairpiece as well as a headpiece just to fit in with the rest. Either way, I do think these are some of the best figures of this set, which... Let's move on to the next figures, which are pretty unique, so let's take a look at those. And here we have two of our three minions of the set, Mega Minion Jerry and Mega Minion Mel. From what I understand, a certain amount of minions, specifically 5, 3 of them are in this set, went through a little experiment and got superpowers in one way or another. As you can see, Jerry has more of a rocky type of body, while Mel has like an optic vision beam which could like shoot lasers, even though there's no laser function. They've just got the unique eyes sort of thing right here, which you do also. Here's what it looks like without it, which this is just a headpiece with a unique mouth. And you can even do the same with Jerry over here. You could take his eye off, which just looks weird without it, and you could just, if you want, you could readjust it so that way he looks angrier in a way. And you could also take half his head off, which kind of looks cursed in a way, but you could see there's a little bit of open space in there. You could probably put a stud or so in there, because this set does come with an extra one of these eye tiles, so in theory you could put that in there in case you lose the one, so that's pretty creative. Oops. And you may notice that Jerry has a yellowy body, while Mel has a bit of an orangish, a Keatongo orange body. I believe this is referred to as Keat orange, but I could be wrong. But that's because I guess the Mega Minions are wearing suits. But Mel has become so big and rocky that he's too big for the suit. Heck, if you look closely, there's cracks on his eye, which that's a really amazing detail. I do love the shaping of Jerry's body. You could just look at the roundness and all that. We'll get to the back shortly. Which, these do have like regular minifigure hands, which can turn and all that, which is just really nice. You could see on the back, you could see there's some more overall printing on the minion, as well as molding for Jerry. Which, these are some really cool figures, and I would have shown the third one with them, but the third one is a bit unique, which we will get to that shortly. You can see all the rocky texture of Jerry, as well as the normal body of Mel, but yeah. You can see that they've got a unique little M on their shirt, which is for Mega Minion, of course. But yeah, these are some pretty cool Minion minifigures. This is my first time getting a Minion-based minifigure, which I do think these are pretty cool. Let's take a look at our next Minion-based minifigure, and you can obviously see why I had that one separate. And for our last minifigure, we have Mega Minion Tim. As you can see, he's got some really long arms, which are pretty flexible. You could have them move around. You could just have it so that way he's got like a normal arm, and he's got like one big long arm like that. Which I thought this all was gonna be one piece this here, which actually it's not. It consists of tubing as well as these little pieces to where you'd have the hands. Let me see if I can pull this off. You can see how that is, and you just like push it in like so. Yeah, you can see that Tim also comes with a really long head, as you can see there, which in theory you could just remove this piece off and I'm gonna have to grab that. And you could have his head be a little bit shorter, which actually, the top of the head is separate from this. Oh, it looks a little odd since the end of the mouthpiece is right here. So it just looks weird like that. Still, it's a really cool figure. He pretty much has the same torso piece as Mel, of course. Looking at the back, it's the same as Mel. The only difference is the arms, the pieces that have the printed face, as well as he's got two eyes instead of one, like Mel and Jerry. But this is really nice to get flexible arms. It's very rare that we get some minifigures, or minions in this case, with flexible long arms, which hopefully we get some more in the future, which we did get one this year in 2025, although there is another figure that should have gotten long arms but didn't, but we're not here to talk about that. Anyways, I think it's time we head over to the end of the video, so let's get to it, shall we? I do think this is a really interesting set. It does have both a decent amount of good and a plentiful amount of bad. On one hand, they do have some really cool figures, but on the other, there's just several missed opportunities with the minifigures and the build. The exterior of the build is alright, even though it's a bit downsized, but the interior is just not that great. They could have done a whole lot more with the minifigures and the build and all that. I feel like there's just so much more they could have done, but they just didn't. And I just find that as a massive missed opportunity. It's to the point where it's just despicable. But am I upset? No, I am not. A little. But anyways, here comes the question. Would I recommend this set? Well, it is one of those difficult sets. I mean, if you really want to get a Despicable Me based set, then yeah, sure. Just if you want to get the minifigures and all that, yeah, sure. But at the same time, here's my saying. Get it for cheaper. Do not get this at $100, because it is not worth it for $100. I do think it's better to get this set for a much reasonable price than just $100. I think it would be better just to get this set for a cheaper price. Because I feel like if you're paying $100 for this, it just feels a bit cheap. But, I don't know, that's just how I feel. I feel like this set could have just been a lot more. There's just so many missed opportunities in this set, and I just wish that LEGO did a little bit more with this set. But otherwise, it's an okay set. It's not a bad set, but it's not a good set either. It's an alright set. But I think that'll conclude today's video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Be sure to like, subscribe, and comment all that, because it helps, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a good one!
I'll stuff you all in the class.